Star Citizen recently added the NYX system, a system full of history, conflict, and political tension, and yet, right now, it's completely empty. But what if NYX wasn't just another system waiting for planets to be added? What if it was the first system where players shape the story? Today we're talking about NYX, the recent lore changes, and why this isn't necessarily a bad thing, and why it might be one of the biggest missed opportunities in Star Citizen's storytelling. NYX is a frontier system. It borders hostile space, including Vanduul territory, and has always been a refuge for people trying to escape the UEE. Recently, Cloud Empyrean Games updated the lore. NYX 1 has been terraformed to a Stanton-like standard. The terraforming was done by a UEE-backed corporation, and the corporation is now trying to claim legal rights over the planet. This change isn't bad. In fact, it sets up incredible narrative tension. The problem is, none of this is happening in-game. Star Citizen has something no other game really does. A persistent universe, a huge community of players who genuinely care about the progression of the game, and the ability to run live events. NYX should be a storytelling sandbox. Instead of just waiting for planets to be added later this year, CIG could use NYX to introduce long-term narrative arcs, let players influence political outcomes, and permanently shape the system's future. Right now, NYX feels like a stage with no actors. Let's talk about what's already in the lore, because it's perfect for player-driven storytelling. Let us introduce the main factions in NYX. One of which is the UEE Sympathizers. This faction believes NYX can't survive alone. The Vanduul are attacking the system, and criminal groups like Shattered Blade are kidnapping locals and Vanduul alike. And in this turmoil, the UEE offers protection, stability, and infrastructure. The Sympathizers' argument is simple: join the UEE or be wiped out. The next faction is the Independence Movement. These people remember why NYX exists. NYX was founded to escape UEE control. Corporate exploitation and overreach are exactly what they ran from in the first place. Letting the UEE take NYX 1 means losing everything they stand for. To them, survival without freedom isn't survival at all. And then there was Chaos, Xenothreat, who hate all alien races, believing humanity must dominate or be destroyed. They would gladly turn NYX into a military-industrial stronghold. They don't want peace, but war. And they see NYX as the perfect staging ground. Here's where Star Citizen could accomplish something truly special. Imagine this. Due to recent events like Vanduul raids and terraforming NYX 1, NYX holds its first system-wide election. Players choose which faction should control the future of the system. Players could participate in this not just through one-off events, but watching NYX unfold through multiple stages, each one shaped by a player choice and escalating in scale. This wouldn't just be background flavour, it would be a living process, where players build the future of the system. In the first stage, campaign elections begin. This introduces the conflict. Players choose which faction they support by contributing influence points through gameplay. How influence is earned could be through mission gameplay and cargo hauling to supply factions, as well as combat missions around rival groups, assassination and sabotage contracts as well. Every completed mission adds influence to your chosen faction. Other ways could be through economic support. Players can donate hard-earned AUEC. Wealthy individuals and organizations can significantly shift the balance. Every credit donated directly affects the outcome. At the end of Stage 1, the faction with the most influence earns the right to determine where NYX's capital city will be built on NYX 1. Each version of the capital having a different atmosphere, a different function, a different goal. For the Independence capital, it could be built on flat, fertile ground, focused on agriculture and self-sustainability, with less military and more community-driven aspects. A true frontier society. Alternatively, the Xenothreat capital may be built deep in the mountains, featuring heavy mining operations, fueling weapons factories and fortifications. NYX would become a war-focused system. Finally, a UEE-aligned capital could be built on the coast, with access to water, trade routes, and tourism, all supported by UEE infrastructure, law enforcement, and luxury. A shining symbol of UEE influence on the frontier. This city wouldn't just be cosmetic, it would affect missions, economy, security, and future storylines. That choice sets the tone for everything that follows. For Stage 2, we could be building the capital. Once the capital's location is chosen, the second stage begins, and this is where NYX truly comes alive. The focus shifts from decision-making to action. Resources must be hauled in, mines activated, wrecks salvaged, and players aren't just casting votes anymore. They're physically building the city with their own effort. As materials are delivered, the capital begins to take shape in real time. Foundations break the land, scaffolding rises high into the skyline, power grids flicker on, landing pads come online, and streets slowly fill with life. Every visible change is the result of player involvement, creating a sense of ownership that feels personal, because you helped make it happen. At this stage, faction support continues to matter, not through control alone, but through purpose. Players influence what the capital is built for, shaping its role in the system. An independent capital leans towards survival and self-reliance. Farms, food production facilities, and civilian landing zones dominate the layout, creating a city designed to sustain life itself far from outside influence. A Xenothreat-aligned capital tells a different story. Industrial districts prioritize munition factories and fuel refinement, forming a city built for constant conflict, rapid rearming, and relentless pressure on its enemies. A UEE-aligned capital focuses on order, stability. Medical centers, hospitals, and rapid response infrastructure define the skyline, supporting enforcement, disaster relief, and system-wide security. This stage isn't about construction, it's about identity. Players don't simply decide who controls the capital, they decide what it stands for and how it functions in the living universe. In Stage 3, we have the final push. It is the most demanding and volatile phase of the entire project, a system-wide effort where combat, logistics, and coordination all collide. By this point, NYX is no longer just being built, it's being tested. Every faction pursues its own endgame, and choices made here will define the system's future. For Xenothreat supporters, the conflict escalates into open war. Massive combat operations are launched against encroaching Vandal swarms, pushing players into relentless large-scale engagements. From the wreckage of destroyed enemy ships, rare Vandal technology is recovered and quietly funneled back into NYX. Officially, it's just research. Unofficially, that technology is integrated directly into the city's infrastructure, altering power systems, weapons, and defenses in ways no one fully understands. The consequences remain hidden until they aren't. The independent movement faces a different challenge: growth at any cost. Expanding the capital now requires enormous quantities of resources, far beyond anything demanded before. High-value materials rotate weekly, forcing players to adapt, explore, and compete for lucrative supply opportunities. As the city grows, a new law and order framework begins to emerge, one shaped directly by player actions, enforcement choices, and community priorities rather than any central authority. For the UEE-aligned forces, the final push is about the consolidation and control. Vast cargo convoys move throughout the system, carrying not just supplies, but influence. Political intelligence, NPC personnel, and even livestock, transported in secured containers, cages, or transport vehicles for colonial support, must be delivered safely to NYX. Each successful transfer strengthens UEE's leverage, generating control points that translate into authority, stability, and long-term governance of the capital. For Stage 3, this is where intent becomes reality. Victory isn't determined by a single battle or shipment, but by sustained effort across the entire system. By the end, NYX will no longer be a project. It will be a consequence of the choices players made when everything was on the line. When the event finally concludes, every action taken across all stages is accounted for. Influence earned through construction, combat, logistics, and political maneuvering is combined into a single outcome, one that reflects the collective effort of the player base. The faction that emerges on top doesn't just claim victory. It defines NYX's future. Control of the system is established, and the capital's function is locked in, and the long-term direction of NYX is set in motion. From governance and infrastructure to security in daily life, the system becomes a reflection of the choices made during the event. NYX doesn't fade back into the background once the dust settles, it stands as a lasting result of player agency, a living precedent that proves systems can be shaped, not scripted. What happens here doesn't just matter for NYX, it sets expectations for how the universe itself can evolve when players are given the power to decide. From there, the same process could be applied to future systems like Castro and beyond, each one telling a different story, shaped by different player decisions. A living universe, player-driven outcomes, stories told through action, not cutscenes. NYX doesn't need to wait for all its planets to be finished. It needs events, choices, and consequences. And if CIG ever wanted to test true player-driven narrative, NYX is the perfect place to start. So what do you think? Should players decide the future of NYX? Which faction would you support? And do you want more story-driven events like this in Star Citizen? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you in the verse. As always, we stream a podcast at 6:30 UK time on Fridays, and a gameplay stream at 6:30 PM Saturday. Fly safe. This has been Drake's Den, signing off.